Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast to guide you home into your human journey here on Earth. My name is Vivian Gerard, and it is my delight to co-create with Gaia and share our messages from Source in this now moment. Here we go. Episode 493. It is Friday here in Cincinnati. It is raining. We are feeling the effects of the hurricane that just landed and moved through Florida and now Georgia. So I open up this space with blessings and love and care and steadiness to all of those who are being impacted, not just here in the United States, but around the world by some of the effects of nature, the ways that the earth is communicating with us. I also come to the space a little tender and vulnerable today. I just got off the phone with my son, and he was so great at helping me reframe some emotions I'm having. And so the title for today is renamed based on the wisdom of my son who's away at college. And the title is It Always Works Out, which is what he said to me probably 10 times in our chat. So I'll give you a little context, and then the invitation always is to find what your matches are, to find the insight that pops up in you based on the stories and the reflections that I'm sharing from my life. Every experience we have is always a co-creation of energy. It's me bringing my energy, the things that are happening in my reality and how I'm making sense of them and the patterns that I'm discovering, bringing that energy forward, and it activates something in you. And then your inquiry and self-reflection brings forward new awareness in your reality. So that is my intention always in this space, is simply to be a voice that activates a new understanding of yourself within you. So for me, there's a lot of reflection that I have been sharing here in the podcast about the cycle of Pluto and how Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008 and has been making its way through that zodiac sign until now. We have 2 more weeks of Pluto being retrograde, going backwards in Capricorn, and then October 12th, 13th, Pluto starts to move forward in Capricorn and crosses into Aquarius November 19th. And then Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. So we're in this little cleaning up, clearing, completing, sifting, sorting through energy with Pluto and Capricorn at this time right now. And it feels like a review, a final preparation for the completion. The preparation for the completion. If we use it in college terms, thinking about my son, I feel like the final exams will be when Pluto moves into Aquarius, right before that, the final exam. And right now we're in the reviewing part to prepare for the preparation for the exam. The final little pieces are all being put in place, and maybe it's an open book exam, and so we can go back through and look at our notes and review things and find the threads and find the patterns. And then there's going to be this moment where the exam is over and the class is finished, and now we move into whatever the next class or chapter is going to be. And what I find in my work with clients, what I find is often at those times where there's this completion that we know energetically is happening, we start to solidify the patterns and make conclusions and then anchor in those conclusions. And when we do that, those conclusions then become facts or evidence or the construct for the next reality. And so it feels really important to take the time to actually review and understand what we are concluding, and perhaps expand the perspective to make sure is what we are concluding accurate, or is it just informed by all the emotions we're feeling at the current moment? Because we can anchor in beliefs into our mind, into our body, that are not actually true. They're beliefs that are circumstantial or current in this moment. And then it takes us even longer to unravel them in the next part of our journey. Or perhaps we never unravel them, and then we hold on to those beliefs. And if those beliefs truly are not in alignment, our body feels that, and then our body's fighting that misalignment, as Louise Hay calls it, that dis-ease. We're not at ease in ourselves, and the dis-ease creates friction, which creates illness. And then, our next phase of our journey is informed by that disease. So thresholds like this one just feel so potent, so filled with potential, filled with expansion, if we allow ourselves the space for it, if we allow ourselves to feel all the feelings that are happening at that threshold. And that's really what I'm in right now. It just feels like there's so much to be felt. There's so many layers that are coming up, and I don't want to rush through it and then stuff the emotions in and make the assumptions and lock in the beliefs and move into Pluto and Aquarius, this next big collective cycle we're all going through, with places that are not in actual alignment inside of myself. And so I have beautiful people around me who help me remember and steady myself so that I really do the work and I stay in alignment. Which is why this title, It Always Works Out, is so powerful. Sometimes perhaps what serves us is to anchor in that belief and then spend the next phase of the journey unraveling that belief, because what we're going to learn in that process is going to be so powerful. So I don't think we ever actually get it wrong. I just feel like sometimes we make it so much harder on ourselves, and we make the human experience so much more challenging and intense than perhaps it needs to be. I believe maybe our soul would desire for us to have more pleasure and more play, more enjoyment of the human realm, and less of the struggle, the feeling of isolation or intensity or overwhelm that so many humans seem to be experiencing right now. So we'll hold this underlying energy of it always works out as the basis of our conversation here today. I'm going to share why it's so tender for me today, and you may listen to this and go, oh my God, really? This is your problem? This is the thing that has you upset? Like, get over yourself. And it's okay if it brings that up in you, because there's something there for you to explore. And your thing that you're struggling with, someone else may go, okay, really? Really, that's your thing? It's all relative in our own reality. And so let's not criticize ourselves or the other people around us for whatever it is we're working through. One of the things that I've come to understand and really honor more as I get older is how every human chooses exactly the things that they want to be looking at in their life. And nobody's is more important or less important than anybody else's. We choose what we choose for a reason, and we create our reality to support that exploration. And so it's not for me to judge if someone else's reality is right, wrong, less hard, more hard. Like, it's not mine to judge. It's simply to honor, like, this is the reality they've chosen. This is the reality they're sitting in and working through. And is there a way I can support or love them in that moment without needing it to be different or to change them? It's taken me a long time, a really long time, to get to this place of, I guess the word would be equanimity, respect. Yeah, deep respect for the individual journeys that we choose. And then again, like coming back to myself, being able to respect my journey I've chosen, even when some of the things I get worked up about, I'm like, really? Really, am I worked up about this? So, how do I want to share this with you? Well, I think I'll bring it back to the 2008 Pluto cycle, because that's the thread that I really am working on right now. When Pluto first moved into Capricorn, it brought a deconstruction, a tearing down of lots of known foundational structures of how we functioned as a humanity. So the real estate market, the financial market, communities, jobs, I mean, just so many areas were directly impacted in 2008 by the things that were not in alignment in the sign of Capricorn. So Pluto comes into the sign and throws everything up in the air in order to expose what's underneath that isn't in right alignment, isn't in truth or integrity. And so, of course, all of that happened at that time. That's the collective experience. Individually, each one of us were having an experience with Pluto and Capricorn in our own birth chart. So for me, Pluto arrived in Capricorn in 2008, and I was aware that the marriage I had been trying to hold together in the way that I was trying to do it wasn't going to work anymore. And that the way that my husband and I at the time were trying to manage our lives was not sustainable. It was actually really toxic for both of us. And that the way that I was trying to fix it wasn't working. And I'd reached the end of what I was able to manage in holding the way I'd been holding the marriage. So there was a complete deconstruction of my idea of marriage that happened. At the same time, I had been a stay-at-home mom with my children, and I realized I needed to go to work and start making money and create some independence. So my structure of my reality, my time spent, completely shifted in that summer of 2008. September is when it really started. And so I went to work full time, and my children started going to daycare. My youngest was in school. It was a complete shift in our home life, in the way that I communicated and supported and loved my children, physically taking care of them and managing our lives. You know, it was a whole new reality that fell apart, was rebuilt. And I wasn't great at it at first. I definitely had a lot to learn about how to manage work and home, especially the job. So that was another area that was being rebuilt. The work that I had been doing was mostly consultant work as my children were home, and a lot of writing, nonprofit work. Before that, I'd been doing management of people in retail environments. And so I had an interview in 2008 with a construction company. I knew nothing about construction. And it was for a marketing manager for the local office. And I didn't quite know what marketing support they needed. My degrees were making me qualified for it, and I'd had some experience, but I didn't know. So we met at TGI Fridays. This woman who I'd met through some networking connections, we met with the general manager, her and myself, and had a drink and talked. And he was like, I don't know anything about marketing, but I seem to think you do. And I said, well, I don't know anything about construction, but you do. He's like, well, let's figure it out together. And so I started working in construction, which I knew nothing about, and was trying to fumble my way through how to communicate about building these incredibly complicated, huge projects that I didn't understand. I was trying to write proposals using technology I hadn't figured out yet. I felt like such a beginner in a world that was big and busy and successful. I felt, there's so much emotion today. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I don't know, but I'm going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to figure it out. And so I was trying to prove myself and, really show that I could do it, that I could master the thing that I had put in front of myself as a challenge. This is the energy right now. It's like there's so much to be felt, and yet we don't allow ourselves to feel it often. So we're going to feel it together, and it's okay. And I'm okay, and you're okay, and we're going to feel it. So for me, I worked my butt off. I worked so hard, and I put in really long hours and tried to prove that I was good at what I didn't know I was doing. And I became really good. I had amazing support around me and so much grace when I screwed up, and it worked. We did really well as a team. I was there for 5 years, and we did really good things together. We built some really good projects, and I know that the level of commitment and quality that I brought to my job provided that impact that supported the sales. And it was a wild time in my life. That job also is where I met my husband, my new husband. Not for a couple of years. I spent the first year of working full-time trying to go through mediation, counseling, work through a divorce, take care of my children. We moved in with my parents for a while and then moved back to my house, and my husband at the time moved out, and it was so chaotic. There was so much happening in my life, and I was barely holding it together and running just to keep the energy moving through my body. That's also when I was introduced to energy work and found a coach who, thank God, walked me through some of the more intense moments and put me in my power, had me pause. I think I shared this before, had me pause to think before I just responded without thinking. It was a really wild time in my journey, a really powerful time. It's when my spiritual awakening, I think, really started, and I was reading a lot of books and listening to music and meditations and trying to make sense of what was making no sense in my life. And then when the divorce was complete, I started talking to my husband. At the time, we were sitting in meetings together at the construction company for his school. Our company was building his new school. And we would just look at each other like, what is this crazy that is happening here in these meetings about massive donations for the arts? Like, what even is this? We're both really grounded, down-to-earth people, and some of the conversations were just so out in left field. We didn't know what to even think of it. And so we would just kind of laugh and roll our eyes at each other. And then I think it was May that year, he asked me if I wanted to go have dinner as friends. And so we did. The divorce was final before that, and it started this other whole chapter in my life. So coming to now, that wave of emotion that needed to move. Coming to now, the similarities I feel are, the word I have is like disconcerting, disorienting. I can feel that there's some wobbliness in my system. And I don't like wobbliness because I've done so much work to be really confident in who I am. And so when the wobbliness comes, I get more wobbly because I know I'm wobbly. Do you have that experience? It's like you know you're going to cry and then you're trying to not cry, and so you cry more because you're trying to not cry. It's that sort of a feeling. What I can feel as Pluto wraps up in Capricorn is how far I've come from 2008. How proud, how proud that woman would be of the me I am today. And also how far I still have to go. And how much grace I have to keep giving myself because I still don't have it all figured out. Even though I think I should by now. I feel like, shouldn't I understand this yet? Shouldn't I have more of this together? So, last week, I talked about the Wealthy Woman Vault and the beautiful resources that Katya was providing. And just what it was bringing up for me, this lack or this block I've had of receiving, and how I'm ready to open up to more. And then I talked about that in the podcast, like, I'm ready, I'm opening up, I'm ready for more. And then this week I felt the contraction, like, maybe I'm not ready. maybe I don't know how to do this. Maybe this isn't for me. And yet I know I'm in alignment, and that was the beautiful gift my son reminded me of this morning. It's all working out. It's always working out. So you just have to keep going. You have to keep trying. You have to keep taking the next step forward. So in 2008, my children were little and they were home. And I left that home full-time environment to go back into the corporate world. Now that cycle is completed, and what I feel is, my children are grown now. My daughter lives on her own with her partner, and my son is at college, but he's a senior, so I don't know, maybe he'll live with us a little bit next year, but I think he's ready to have his own place soon. And so he's stepping out on his own. And for my husband and I, we're in this phase, they call it empty nester. I don't know if I quite like that word. I feel like the nest is still very full. My husband and I are really happy in our home together. Our house doesn't feel empty to me, but I miss my children, and like a lot. Yeah. And so it's an adjustment, right? It's just a new phase, a new way of experiencing relationship and connection. I'm so proud of who they are and how they live and how they walk this planet. And I'm so proud to be their mother. And it's really cool to see them building their lives. So I don't want to change it, but it's still emotional. We're in eclipse season too, in case I haven't named that. And I'm really trusting that me just sitting in this and sharing it with you is serving, and that you're moving emotions with me. And so I'm not going to allow my mind to judge this process. I'm just going to be fully in it with you. So there's a shift in my family structure. We also have 3 grandchildren now that are just the most beautiful joy in our lives. And, finding time to be with them, be with our children, be with our extended family. My parents are a lot older and not in great health, and so there's a lot of time and energy spent supporting them that I wasn't doing in 2008. If anything, they were supporting me because I was just an emotional mess at the time trying to move through a divorce. So the roles have kind of reversed in a sense. And then the big shift with my work is I've created a really strong foundation in how I do my work and the trust I have in the processes, the evidence I've created for myself in how I do it, the courses, the books, the podcast, the live experiences, all the things. Like I have proven to myself that this is the right work for me and that I'm really in alignment when I tap in and create and guide and mentor. Like I know I'm in flow with my soul, and in a way I never was in any career before this one. And what I feel, so Pluto in Capricorn, it was me leaving home and really stepping into a corporate job. And then eventually leaving the corporate job and working for someone else part-time, and then like starting my own business, all the things. What I feel now is it's an opening to the prosperity, the abundance of a really big business. The words that came through when I was doing the hypnosis session in the vault, the Wealthy Woman Vault last week, the words that came through were, I'm a millionaire. And it wasn't I'm a millionaire in my money with my husband. It's I'm a millionaire in running my business. Like my business is $1 million business and more. And there's a lot of deconditioning that's happening inside of me, a lot of judgment about what millionaire businesses are or aren't, or produce or don't produce, or there's a lot of stuff that I'm sorting through. Just like there was a lot of stuff I had about corporate work that I sorted through. And so I can feel the wanting to move, to expand, like the forward momentum in my body of like, yes, let's go do this thing, let's conquer it, let's be it, let's create it. And at the same time, the pullback, the resistance, the doubt, the fear, the how am I going to do it? And what does that even mean? And can I actually hold that and sustain that? And so it's bringing up a lot inside of me. And one of my intentions in my business structure is to have multiple streams of revenue, to not be dependent on one person, one thing, one company, which I believe is very Pluto in Aquarius mentality. Pluto in Capricorn is, let's take the idea that you work for one company your whole life and deconstruct that. And I think Pluto in Aquarius is, let's open up the potential for multiple streams of income to support the reality we're creating. And so I have multiple things that I do and where money comes in different ways. And one of the things I've shared a lot here is Insight Timer, that I've been creating a lot of free content there and doing live events and really having so much fun building the community, getting to know people. And in the process, this one person, Downward Dog is his name, Doug Robson, not Downward Dog, Downward Doug Robson, and he is really committed to helping teachers on Insight Timer create sustainable revenues from the work that they do. And he really pushes doing premium tracks and creating courses. So I was like, oh, I'll just start doing that. And so for the last month and a half, I've been submitting premium tracks, and it takes 5-7 days for them to review it and then come back to you. And again, they keep getting denied, rejected, which I understand. There's like a level of studio sound and quality that they want with those premium tracks. So I've just tested different things and listened to what other people said works for them. And this week I created one. I was like, yes, like this is going to be the first premium track that goes up. And now that I've mastered like how to do the sound, I'm going to be able to create the courses that I've already got the ideas for. And this is amazing. I'm so excited. I sent it in. I was like, yes, let's go. And then every day I've been checking, like, okay, they're going to send it back. They're going to send it back. This morning they sent it back and they said rejected. And I thought I did it all right. And so I've just been feeling sad about it. And when my son called, I started crying about it. And then I'm like, why am I crying about a track? You know, but it's like, it feels so much bigger than that. It's this, how many times do I have to keep trying something before it finally lands? How many times do I have to keep creating and recreating. And when is it just going to take off? Or the green light, when is the green light just going to like go? And I feel that way sometimes with this podcast. I know that it's for me and it's for you. And then I think, well, why aren't more people listening to this? It's such a pure frequency of love. I don't understand why it doesn't just cut through so much of the bullshit that I see on social media, on YouTube. Like, people watch some of the dumbest things. And I'm like, why? When there's open hearts communicating really powerful truth, like, why are people watching dumb shit? But they do. And then I get so frustrated, and then I take breaks and I don't create for a while because it just feels pointless, And that's how I feel this morning, a little bit like, ugh. So I know I'll try again, and I'll create another version of it, and I'll upload another version of it, and I'll just keep going. But sometimes in the moment, it's just tiring. It's just really exhausting. And I think we get really defeated. And thank God for people around us who come forward and say, it always works out. And you just gotta keep going. And like my son, he said, Mom, watching you build a business has been one of the most incredible things to see. And who you were then and who you are now are not the same. So you just got to pick yourself back up and keep going. He's like, I get it. Because I said, I feel like I'm hitting my head against the wall. And for what? Like, it's not working. And he's like, it is working. It's just not working as quickly as you want it to work. But it always works out. So I get that this is a first world problem, as people say. But in my reality, it's just another roadblock, and I'm a little tired of roadblocks. Wow. I want the roadblocks to go away, please. So I'm reminding myself this morning that Pluto is retrograde Capricorn for 2 more weeks, and I'm going to just keep fine-tuning and looking for support in logistics and technology, and it will work itself out. And I'm not going to stop creating. I'm going to keep moving forward. And then in a couple weeks, when Pluto goes forward in Capricorn, I do feel like the energy is going to shift again, and there will be more momentum in our back. Less of that like resistance. It's like we're trying to walk into the wind right now is blowing with the hurricane effects. Like, the wind has just been moving nonstop. I feel like right now I'm walking into the wind that's blowing against me, and it's been that way for quite a while. And so it'll be nice when the wind is at my back and helping to carry me forward. Probably I'll make a video then in a few months. I'll be like, the wind is too fast. It's pushing me too far. I can't stay grounded and keep my bearings. I know, sometimes. Are we ever actually satisfied? I don't know. I feel very grateful for the life I'm living. I'm so grateful I have a partnership where my husband is good with me being home, creating podcasts and doing live events and making meditations and, building this business in the way that I keep trusting as I'm going each step. I'm very blessed. And also, it's absolutely in alignment with my soul to be living this way and doing this work. And I also know that. And so to be doing anything else right now would not be right. And I know that. So I just keep trusting. One of the gifts of grace that came through yesterday I watched a recap of the Wealthy Woman Vault by the business manager, the partner that supports Katya in creating her structure for how she's going to deliver the energetics of her work. And they both had an agreement to be very transparent about the results of the vault and how it went. They did this huge launch with 40 different affiliates and really pumped it up. I thought it was so successful. And for me, from the outside looking at it, I thought that was profound and beautiful, and I felt the impact, and the price they charged was nothing. Like, I don't even understand. Like, it was so much value. It was so good. And when they did the review, they made almost half, maybe not quite, maybe 2/3 of what they made last year. And they were disappointed. They didn't think that it would go like it did. And so they were sharing the strategy mistakes that they feel they made on how they did the launch and the way that they ran things. And the business manager was so powerful the way he said this. He said these two things. I shared them with my son this morning. The first thing he said is, you always provide 10 times the value of what you're charging. He's like, because when you're providing 10 times the value and people know that, they'll pay whatever the price is because they know they're getting 10 times what it should be charged for. And I feel that, like, I easily got 10 times, I would even say 100 times the value of what she charged for that event last week. So he said, that's the first thing. And I'm really confident my work does that. I definitely feel like people get 10 times the value with what I charge. And then he said, the next thing is to find the one thing that works well for you, and you just keep doing that same one thing over and over until you've taken it all the way to $1 million, which I love that he said $1 million, because that was the number that I'm claiming for my business. And he said, you do the one thing all the way to $1 million, and you don't recreate it, you don't deviate from it, you don't add new things. Like, you just do the thing that worked, and you do it all the way to $1 million, and by then you'll be ready for something else. And he said, if we had done what we did the first year with the vault and recreated it, we probably could have hit $1 million. But instead, they shifted and changed things, and it did way less. He said, so it's just proof of what his belief is. So my son asked me that this morning. He's like, Mom, what's the thing you do that in your business has always consistently been successful? And I was like, I know, I've already thought about that. I thought about that last night when I was journaling after watching the session. And for me, the thing that has consistently built my business is being in circle space with groups of people, where I'm facilitating the circle, I'm guiding the conversation, I'm reading the energy and supporting individuals. And then that leads into individual sessions. And in that individual session work, you take the theme of the group and you apply it directly to your reality, your life. But the community space holds the collective work for the individual. So it's this combination of group work with individual support. I was like, I know that's the thing. And it worked in person when I did the new moon circles here, and it's working now when I'm doing it virtually in Insight Timer. Like, I know the model is right for me. He's like, well, then you just keep doing that. I'm like, what? You're a college senior and now you have all the answers? Okay. I mean, you're right. You're right. So that's where I am. I am clearing, becoming aware, clearing more, allowing myself to feel it, sharing it as I go, because that's how I live my life, and it just feels right to do that. And then we'll see where it goes from here. I would really love to hear if you have matches. It's nice when I send this transmission out and then I get feedback saying, yeah, that landed, or that actually really feels true in my life too. It makes me feel like, okay, this is providing the value I feel it is. I'm getting the evidence of that. So if you have a match, please share it. If you feel like you're totally in this also, book a session. Let's take a look together. Even if I fall apart here and cry and feel all the things, when I hold sessions, the work is powerful and really creates ripples in your reality. That's why I call it an activation session. So you can always sign up for that. If you're not following me yet on Insight Timer, we have 2 lives every week now through the time that Pluto moves into Aquarius, so for the next 6 weeks. And what is happening there is so beautiful. There are so many ahas and matches that people are sharing. the threads are weaving and overlapping together in beautiful ways, and the people are getting to know each other. I'm getting to know the people, which is so nice. And so we're building community in an online platform in a really beautiful way. And then if you feel all this and you're like, oh my God, I know this 2008 cycle is a really big deal in my world, and I just haven't had the time or the space to really deep dive into it. I am hosting a retreat November 18th through 20th in Florida at the beach. It's expensive, at least I think it's expensive, because it's a big investment, and it's also at least 10 times the value of that with what you will receive out of it. We are going to explore the cycle from 2008 until now. And then we're going to set some very clear intentions for our 20-year journey of Pluto in Aquarius. It is an immersion experience with me and all of those who choose to gather, max of 14 of us, and we're going to do a deep dive. It's interesting because I've been really watching how some of the people in my industry do events, and it seems like an event is often a way to bring people together and then on the back end sell them another program or another offer. And I feel like that's not what this is. This event is you come to the event to do the work, to really go into the things that are ready to be cleaned up, cleared, released, and then steady, strong on your feet, planning where you're going to go with your soul in the next 20 years. It's a work event, a soul deep work event, and I'm so excited because I just can feel it all, and it's really going to be beautiful. I'm going to be doing that work myself in the community space, and I have very big plans for the next 20 years. So it will be great to share them and refine them in that space. Okay. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you for witnessing as I go through all of the ups and the downs. And we'll just leave with this final thought that it always works out. So much love. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.